Well, hi. Good to see you guys. Apparently, you couldn't hear me either. What's going on tonight, man? We're having all these technical. Oh my goodness, that was bright. We're having all these technical difficulties here tonight. First of all, it was my little Wi-Fi thing, and then now it's my microphone that was muted. What am I gonna do? It's 3 a.m. It's been a night. But anyways, let me restart again here. But what I was saying is that we do have a pretty nasty storm that was or that is expected to kick off here. Heavy snow, strong winds is going to be a big problem, as well as a bunch of other concerns here as well. So. Definitely a pretty heavy storm for these areas here. I mean, it's a pretty good one. I think this is probably going to be a pretty good storm for you guys, overall, and probably one of your good ones this year. So, anyways, what's up, Kool-Aid? Good to see ya. What's up, Mud? What's up, Wolf Lover? Good to see ya. Saying I'm back. Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, before we were having a little bit of Wi-Fi problems. My Wi-Fi connection, turned out to be not really stable because the little thing that my Wi-Fi connects to my computer with was like dislodged somehow. I don't know how, but we're back. We're back. We're good to go. But anyway, so hopping on over here, I do want to take a look at the satellite view because I want to kind of show you guys what is going on here. We're kind of hopping to the now casting side of things here. So we do have ourselves, this jet stream that is working its way, across the east. So this is that subtropical jet stream. We actually mentioned this a little bit ago. But basically, this is bringing up a bunch of moisture here. Currently going over Florida. Actually, we have a little bit of rain and stuff that's starting to pop off here across Florida. But yeah, this moisture is coming through the south, and we actually have a cooler air mass that's starting to push down. From the north to the south here. Now, because of this cold air that's coming in, it's going to interact with that moisture that's in the atmosphere here, that subtropical jet. These are going to converge, in which we're going to have that low that's really going to develop out here, eventually picking up some strength, having a good supply of moisture and stuff like that, what it needs, to really kick up here. And then, of course, the system is going to be working its way off here to the northeast. So it's definitely going to be having a pretty good amount of supply here with that subtropical jet. The cold air coming down from the north here too. So definitely is coming together pretty well. All right, so let's hop back over here. We're going to do a little bit of now casting here. So let's switch on over. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my RTMA analysis panel. So this is current conditions. We're going to start off with the radar. Do you want to pull this up? So, as you can see right now, we do have a pretty good amount of snowfall. That's really kind of fallen across portions of, North Carolina, portions of like Eastern Tennessee, Virginia, even a little bit of like Northeastern Georgia. We were having a little bit of, snowfall out there, just kind of north of Athens, west of, like Western South Carolina out there by like Pickens. We do have, a pretty good amount of, snowfall that is falling out in some of those regions here. But, where we stand right now, the storm has a lot of strengthening to do. It's still in its early stages. I mean, that low is there. I mean, you can see this central low right now is about 1,012 millibars, which is pretty weak. Not even really a strong, not even really a low to begin with. But, it is definitely starting to, get together here. Average sea level pressure is 1,013 millibars, and we're at 1,012. So, it's not super low right now, but it's definitely expected to as we work our way further down in time. But, if we do zoom in towards the coast here, actually what I'm going to do just to make it look a little bit better for you guys, I think I'm going to enable counties so you guys can kind of see where these counties are going to be here. And obviously you can see the state line. So this is eastern North Carolina. But yeah, you can see at this point here, we do have, a really good amount of snowfall that's really starting to kind of fall across eastern North Carolina right now. And if you look in between, we do actually have a little bit of dry air as of right now, between the eastern side of North Carolina here and, of course, the western side. There's a little bit of dry air in between. Matter of fact, there's like two little masses of moisture that we're seeing here. The first one, of course, being associated with what's going on here off the coast. And then that second moisture mass is over here, out there by the Appalachian Mountains, the Smoky Mountains out there by western Tennessee, or sorry, western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee. So definitely is, coming down pretty good out there. But eventually, this is all just going to converge into one, as we do have this low down to the south, which is eventually going to be, developing and really kind of kicking its way up to the northeast here. What's up, Scott? Good to see you, my friend. Hope you are doing well. But definitely is, starting to really take shape here. But anyways, let's take a look at those temperatures right now. I think, a lot of you guys are well below freezing. Yeah, pretty much the entire state of North Carolina is below freezing right now. You can see where that freezing point is, where you do have the white here. So this is basically showing us where the freezing point is. So a lot of like northwestern Georgia, central northern Alabama, and pretty much northward is below freezing. Even a little bit of like northern South Carolina has some freezing temperatures right now. But I tell you what, it's definitely a really cold night out there, which is no exception to what it has been. As you probably know, a lot of the plains right now is in the negatives currently. Like Kansas, Nebraska, North and South Dakota. I mean, we're pretty darn chilly right now. Definitely really, really cold. Even the Ohio Valley out by like Ohio, we're in the negatives here as well. But definitely some cold conditions and stuff like that. Anyway, so moving over here to the winds, taking a look here at the current wind conditions here. We do actually already have a little bit of strong wind starting to kick up across the Carolina coast here. According to the RTMA analysis, it does look like we're starting to see maybe, 20, 30 mile an hour wind gusts just off the coast here of North Carolina. A good 25, 30 knot wind barbs here are present. So definitely is pretty strong. Now this is mostly parallel, to the coast here. So there could already be a pretty good amount of rip currents, that's becoming an issue here because of these strong winds, really starting to move around the water and, stuff like that. So, it's definitely starting to, pick up quite a bit out there. And also out there by the Gulf here too. You can kind of see that, a lot of the, the central and western Gulf, we do have a pretty good amount of, wind gusts that are starting to pick up here. If we play back in time, all the way till pretty much here Friday morning, basically about 24 hours ago, you can really see all that strong wind starting to work its way out in the Gulf. So, we're definitely starting to get more of that air working its way down here. And, of course, with that moisture that we were just talking about here on this panel, looking at satellite view, I mean, you could see, that we do have a pretty good amount of moisture, with that subtropical jet working its way over here to the east overall. So that's going to be really supplying this system with a pretty good amount of moisture. And then on top, I mean, you can see this cooler air mass kind of diving south while we have the moisture going east here. And eventually they're just going to converge. Ashes says, about when will snow start in central North Carolina? Let's see here. Looked outside and not see now yet, and not yet, just windy. Gotcha. Yeah, like we were mentioning a minute ago. Over here back at the RTMA, which we'll hop back over to. We'll look back at the radar. Here we'll go ahead and delete this here. So yeah, I mean, we do have a bit of dry air, like we mentioned, kind of in between. There is kind of like two little moisture masses here. We have one over here by eastern North Carolina. Obviously, we have some out here by the Tennessee Valley. Out there by like the Smoky Mountains, the Appalachian Mountains. Pretty good amount of snowfall. But yeah, there is a little bit of dry air in between. But the snow is it's getting there. It's going to be a little bit. I mean, depending on where you are exactly, you guys could start to see some snow here in a couple of hours. I mean, it's it just depends exactly. Like areas like Raleigh right now, you can kind of see is in a little bit of dry conditions here, between these two moisture masses that we have. So, but yeah, I mean, you guys will be getting it here in a little bit. Honestly, I'm going to substitute the dew point because we're not going to be using the dew point here. We'll substitute that for the HRRR model, and we'll pull up the latest run. That's the 07. Actually, we're gonna have to go back to the 06. Yeah, that's the latest full run that we have, and it's also the long run that we have available. So then we go back to the precipitation type. Now, for areas like Raleigh, It seems like we could start to maybe pick up some snow, in the general area here. Here later on this morning. According to HRRR specifically, it actually holds off a little bit before you do get to, having some snow. That is obviously one model's opinion and stuff like that too. But anyways, let me see. What's up, Sleepless? Good to see you. Good evening, or good early morning to you. Hope you're doing well. Let's see here. Just shut down flight sim. Just flew around. Attempt to catch some snow. Oh, I got you. Got you. Yeah, I haven't done that in a minute. It's been a little bit since we hopped on flight sim. Yeah, last year whenever we were having those hurricanes, it was kind of fun to hop on and do a little bit of streams with you. But I never really thought about doing it with snowstorms. But I probably a good thing. I should be doing coverage with you guys. So that's why we're here. The Rally Force Field. Yeah. No, trust me, I get it. It seems like it was that way for me in Northern Virginia too. Back when I used to live up there, it's like it always seemed like everything went around us, which is pretty crazy. But it just be like that sometimes. Definitely does. Now, in terms of the Northeast, a lot of my friends and everybody was wanting to know what's going on with this storm up here in the Northeast, but not really a whole lot. It seems like the new HRRR honestly has all the snow pretty much dodging the Northeast here. We were talking, eastern Massachusetts. Maybe some areas out by like Nantucket could possibly see a little bit of snow. I mean, it can't be ruled out completely, but honestly, I'm probably not going to be dealing with much impacts other than winds, across those regions here. I mean, we're definitely going to be having a bit of a wind problem out there. So, like, if I was to bring up our wind gusts here, this is the HRRR model. Like I said, we're talking about here. If we were to bring up those wind gusts, I mean, it's definitely going to get pretty darn windy out there. Out there by like Nantucket, a good 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts or so could be possible. Out there by like Cape Cod, Yarmouth area, good 50-mile-per-hour winds. But going to be pretty windy across the Northeast in general. Especially on some of those upper elevations, we could definitely see quite a bit of heavy winds out there. That's going to be a kind of a thing for a lot of the East Coast in general. I mean, even Florida. Today out where I'm at, here in Central Florida, I mean, we're going to have some pretty strong winds, about 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts being possible out there. So, and matter of fact, it actually looks like those come here pretty soon. Looks like kind of by the afternoon here of later today, we're going to be getting those. Yeah, but Florida's going to be getting some strong winds out here too, with the system, because basically we're just having such a strong storm really just develop off the coast here. Like we mentioned, and I'll hop back over to SAT, the current satellite imagery here. You can really kind of see what we have going on. Like I said, once again, we have this subtropical jet stream that's, really going over the Gulf, bringing some moisture. And then, of course, we do have some colder air coming down from up north. And because of this, because of the mixture of the cold air and the moisture, we're getting, the collision of that occurring, and we're getting a lot of snow that's starting to be, kind of kicking off there. And because of that, we're going to generate a pretty strong low, off the coast, which eventually is going to be just continually working northeastward. And, this is definitely going to be bringing some, some pretty good amounts of snowfall, so. Gotta definitely look out for this one. I do think it's going to be quite an impactful storm for a lot of people here. Once again, my main concerns is it's for the folks out in like eastern North Carolina, like I mentioned, up there by the banks. I mean, the banks are likely going to get hit pretty good from the way that it looks. Lots of strong winds out there, and all that stuff does seem pretty likely. But anyways, well, let's go ahead and bring up our RTMA analysis again here. I want to go ahead and bring up our current observations so we can keep up with what's going on here. So here's the current winds. Like I mentioned, at this point in time where we're at right now, we're likely seeing some really, really strong winds ongoing, out there for some of these areas just off the coast of North Carolina. But this is definitely not nearly of what we're going to be seeing here. The winds are really going to amplify in activity here over the next several hours. Later on today, we're going to be seeing these winds really become quite strong as we were looking at there. But Right now, according to the RTMA analysis, it looks like current winds are, about 20 to maybe 30, 35 miles an hour or so. Just off the coast of North Carolina, right there kind of near, just off of Wilmington and off of Myrtle Beach here. It seems like dealing with some pretty strong winds out there. Now, inland, definitely we do have a little bit of winds going on, but I wouldn't really consider it anything significant. A good 10 to 20 mile an hour winds going on right now in terms of gusts, for inland North Carolina at the moment. But pretty calm in Florida, honestly. I can confirm my station shows like no winds at all right now. So, but like I mentioned, that's gonna really change here in a little bit. It's gonna really change here. Anyways, let's hop back to radar. Like I mentioned, here's the current radar view. Go ahead and hide the pressure there. So, you can still see the isobars. You can kind of see that low, trying to develop out there just off the southeast coast. And you can actually see all the snow that's ongoing right now, which we do have a pretty decent amount of snow going on at the moment, which you can see a lot of that is right here in like eastern Tennessee at the moment, like western North Carolina, bits of like, southwestern Virginia here overall, and a little bit of like West Virginia. Then, of course, we do have this other bit of snowfall that's kind of kicking up here towards eastern North Carolina at the moment. Which we are, definitely seeing a pretty good amounts falling in some of these areas here. What's up, Crazy Path? Good to see ya. Saying just woke up in Hickory, North Carolina is getting some moderate snow. Gotcha. Yeah. Where is Hickory? Let me figure out where that's at. Is that eastern North Carolina? I believe. No, that's western. That's western. Okay, so yeah, you're out this way. You're kind of by Morganton, aren't you? Yeah, I know a lot of you guys are getting a pretty good amount of snowfall right now. Yeah, definitely like western North Carolina. Western and eastern North Carolina are getting a pretty good amount of snow. And like I said, we have a little bit of dry air kind of in between right now, which is, kind of sandwiching central North Carolina. You can see some snow to the east, snow to the west, and then, right in the middle there, we have a little bit of a dry slot here. Ashes says, looks like it'll start snowing for me soon then. Gotcha. But yeah, I mean, it's starting to come down pretty good. Like I said, also here in eastern Tennessee, it looks like we're starting to get a decent amount of snowfall going on out there. It even looks like we might even have a little bit of snow showers in like northern Indiana here, like southwestern Michigan. Got a little bit of snow going on out here. But we do have some high pressure, a big ridge that's developing here across the Central Plains, which, yeah, I mean, y'all's pressure is pretty darn high right now. So we have a high over there, and of course we have our low that's, trying to develop here just off the coast. So kind of like that. And like I said, the low is going to be going to the northeast here. And, this high is actually kind of advancing southward, which is a lot of higher, cooler and drier air, high pressure, drier conditions and cooler air. And we're just kind of having the old switcheroo kind of taking place here. Let's see here. Crazy says, National Weather Service, let's see, upped our total showing 5 to 8 inches in the watch. Gotcha. Well, these are all warnings at this point here. Where you're at, yeah, you're under those warnings we were just looking at there. It says between 4 and 8 inches. Yeah, I mean, it really ranges like Raleigh here. Raleigh has between 3 and 7. And then, of course, you go out to eastern, out by like Jacksonville, for example, between like 9 and 12 inches. So I mean, we're definitely seeing a pretty good amount of snowfall. And one thing I do want to actually hop over here and show you guys here is the Winter Storm Severity Index here from the National Weather Service. So let me overlay that real quickly. Let's get rid of our drawings here. So let's hop over to that. I'm going to go ahead and show you all what we got going on over here. So this is our Winter Storm Severity Index. So it basically shows you the winter weather impact concern for the region here. And let me put that on top so you guys can kind of see. So these areas are, where we're expecting, impacts from the storm. So we have The winter weather area, which is this area right here, just saying, hey, this area could be involved in some winter weather. Then you got this tan color, this kind of cream color, I guess. This is saying that, we could have some minor impacts. So, impacts can't be ruled out, but there could be some impacts, but, relatively on the lower side. It's not until really you approach the orange is where you start to have some pretty big problems. And what you can see, that obviously includes a bits of central eastern Georgia, bits of eastern Tennessee, both North and South Carolina, bits of Virginia here. So the orange is for the moderate impacts, where we're going to be having some pretty decent impacts here with the winter weather. And then, of course, we have the major area. This red here is where we are going to have some major impacts for winter weather, a lot of problems potentially. And believe it or not, some places in eastern North Carolina, we even have extreme impacts here, as you can see. So those coastal areas here in eastern North Carolina, I think we're going to have some of the biggest, concerns out there, because that's kind of where we have the mix of the strong winds and the heavy snow, which could really lead to some pretty nasty conditions. But once again, yeah, we do even have extreme conditions out there for eastern North Carolina. Also out there kind of by portions of like Virginia Beach. We have a couple areas, but for the main area of Virginia Beach, we're mostly under those major impacts, but still, a big problem. But yeah, I did want to bring that up for you guys. Just so I can show you guys essentially what is going on there. Once again, you can see definitely a pretty good chunk of the Mid-Atlantic and the northern part of the southeastern U.S. And so if you're in those areas, just be sure to really keep a close eye on this system. It's going to be pretty impactful overall. All right, so hopping back over to radar here, I do want to take a look actually at some soundings that we got earlier. So this was a sounding out by Newport here in eastern North Carolina. This was a weather balloon. You guys know those radiosondes, the weather balloons that they launch. They have a little equipment package called a radiosonde. So basically, this is your skew-T chart. So this just, is a simple graph telling us, I know I say simple, some of y'all are probably like, that doesn't look simple. It's pretty simple. I mean, so basically, this is just a graph, you have your X and your Y-axis. The Y-axis basically tells us altitude. The higher you go up in the graph, the higher we go up in altitude. And the X-axis here is temperature, right? So it's pretty simple, just basically shows us the temperature and stuff like that at different altitudes. One thing I want you guys to know, this is your freezing point. So no matter what altitude you're at, your red line here is your temperature, for that altitude. And everything on the left-hand side is all below freezing temperatures. That's your freezing point. We call this an isotherm. But yeah, that is where your current freezing temperatures are at. So from that line and backwards. So, I mean, literally the entire atmosphere, from the ground to the upper atmosphere, everything's below freezing, which that's perfect, obviously, for snow. And, that kind of tells us a lot about the snow. It tells us that, this kind of snow profile would be, relatively light and fluffy. Wouldn't really be the good stuff for snowmen or for snowballs or anything like that. This would be like the fine, powdery type stuff. That snow in pure form is that, powdery type stuff, in which, not really going to be the best. But the thing about that is that powdery snow accumulates a lot better than the heavy snow. And the reason I say heavy snow is, the good stuff that you use to clump up, for snowballs and stuff like that, how it's really good to compact, that's actually formed where, it starts off as snow, like any other snow, and it falls and it goes through a warm layer of the atmosphere, usually the lower atmosphere, where the temperature is at or slightly above freezing, which allows some of the crystals to melt and which allows them to bind a lot better. And in doing so, that kind of compacts the snow too. So as it falls, it's heavier. It's heavier and it tends to compact more, meaning it, doesn't accumulate as much. The light and fluffy stuff is very light and it's very, just there's a lot of air gaps in between, which allows it to accumulate a lot higher than say that that wet snow that you'd use for snowballs and stuff. But yeah, for a lot of these areas here, you're gonna notice that this snow is not gonna be the best for making snowmen. So I hate to burst your bubble there, but as it melts a little bit, if we ever get above freezing, then it should maybe turn into more of the better stuff. After a little bit of time here. But freshly as it's falling, it's probably just going to be a lot of the light stuff. Anyways, just thought I'd mention that there. But yeah, I mean, a lot of sound. That's really the importance of soundings and stuff. I mean, it can really just tell you what's going on in the atmosphere. How much moisture, how strong the winds are at certain levels. What direction the winds are flowing in, what's your temperature, dew point, humidity, all kinds of cool stuff. Which these graphs are very important for us. It just really tells you what is going on in the atmosphere. It is super, super interesting stuff. Here's another sounding here. And once again, this is your freezing point here. So everything on the left side is below freezing temps. The red line is your temperature. And, here's your altitude markers. We got the surface, 1 kilometer, 3 kilometers altitude, 6 kilometers, 9, 12, and 15. And then, of course, you got your temperatures in Fahrenheit, 32 degrees. It goes slanted, 50 degrees, 68, 86, and it goes back. So you can see the temperature here, the height here, and then the red indicates your temperature for that level, which you can see, all of it's below freezing. From the ground up, it is all below freezing, which is good for snow. And then you can see your humidity graph here, which is also using the y-axis as altitude. But you can really see in our lower levels here that we have a pretty good amount of moisture available, which is good. Obviously snow needs moisture to fall. And, a lot of the upper levels though are pretty dry, as you can kind of tell, but that's doesn't really matter in this case. I mean, we have a lot of moist lower levels. And reason we can actually also determine that is by, the gaps between our temperature here in the red line and the dew point in the green line. The closer your dew point and your temperature are together, the higher the humidity. So the more moisture, which is definitely interesting. And another thing to learn is that essentially warm air can hold more moisture than cold air. So as you have things cool off really quickly, the warmer air that it was previously has a lot more abundance of moisture, which it has to release because it can't hold it, because it's colder air. Anyways, I don't want to get too deep into this. I'm sure a lot of you guys are like, what are you talking about? Or something like that. But especially it being 3 in the morning, I don't blame you. But anyways, I just wanted to just throw a little bit of science in there and just kind of explain, what is kind of going on in the atmosphere. Anyways, weather says, is it possible for the forecast to completely bust to get nothing here in Grandy, North Carolina? The likelihood of that completely busting is very unlikely. Let's see. Yeah, you're up in northeastern North Carolina, between 7 and 12 inches. What you got now? It ain't gonna bust. I mean, it's already happening. So, if we hop, which are already over here, I mean, you can already start to see that we're starting to get that activity taking place here. Snow is it is a coming for sure. I can actually back this up to the last 48 hours even. We'll go all the way back here. You can see like the beginning of this whole system here, which, it seems like a lot of the snow started for the morning of Friday out there by like Kentucky, you can see. And then of course, then it started creeping its way over here into the mid-Atlantic. But yeah, I mean, you can see at this point now, within the last 6 or so hours, it looks like. Not even that, honestly. That's when we really started developing a lot of snowfall for some of the eastern sides of North Carolina. Definitely got a pretty good amount of snow. That's starting to kick off here. So, but anyways, guys, like I mentioned, if y'all have any questions throughout the stream, do not hesitate to ask. Like I said, I'm more than happy to help you guys here. Just want to make sure y'all are staying weather aware and prepared, and just kind of know what to expect here. It's a pretty good storm. I think a lot of people are going to be getting some pretty good snows out of this. It's definitely a bit of a further south storm. North Carolina finally getting some snow. I know a lot of these storms have been further north, but it's definitely going to be a pretty good one for for quite a bit of people. So here's your current temperature. temperatures out right now, according to the RTMA analysis. So this is basically, based off of current observations, satellite imagery, and models to kind of fill in the void. But this is kind of where we're standing right now. With what we got going on. So, at the moment, you can see that freezing line here. Is right in here. So obviously, the areas where we do have the snow is already freezing. Temperatures across North Carolina right now are in the 20s for the most part. Western North Carolina, we actually have some areas here in kind of for the upper elevations here, maybe even in the teens, but a lot of the 20s across North Carolina. So the surface temperatures are cold enough. But I can confirm that even the upper levels are cold enough too. That was a big thing about that last storm, that we were talking about with the big ice that we had, especially like Tennessee got. The thing is with them is that, like I was mentioning earlier, while the ground was really freezing and while it was really cold on the ground, you go up a couple thousand feet. In that storm, there was actually a warm layer, which was melting some of that snow, turning it back into water droplets, falls as rain. Then once it gets to the ground, it gets below freezing again, and then it refreezes on contact. Thankfully, this system, we don't have any ice being a big concern. So that's definitely good. I'm really thankful we're not dealing with that because, ice is a million times worse than any amount of snow. Let's be real. Even a little trace of ice can cause some big problems. Haley says, is Missouri going to get more snow in February now? So, yeah, you're up by Kansas City. There's a really good shot you could be. February is still a very active month for winter weather. Absolutely. I think there's a good shot. Chris says, appreciate your reports. Thank you for that. Even though I'm watching from Eastern Washington State, I used to live in Daytona/Ormond Beach. I like to see what's happening over that way. Gotcha. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I really appreciate it, though. Thank you. Yep, definitely. We got a pretty nice little storm on our hands here. That is for sure. Here, let's hop over to models, y'all. We're gonna take a peek at these models. We're gonna look and see. Let's get rid of the radiosondes. We don't need those anymore. So let's hop over to. We'll do precipitation type and reflectivity. We'll go ahead and pull up our HRRR here. We do have a new run that's rendering here. Which this is the 07 UTC. Actually, I think it finished rendering here. So yeah, this one doesn't go as far, but you can kind of see where we stand here in the future. So. This is showing right around 8 a.m., kind of similar to what we actually have going on right now. You could see the radar behind me there. That's kind of where we're sitting right now. A little bit of that coastal snow starting to develop here. Bits of snow out to the west here in, the Smoky Mountains and whatnot. As we approach noon o'clock, here for today, that's when, we are going to start to see a lot more snow kind of push further eastward. Definitely a pretty good amount of snowfall, falling out, further eastward, expanding in towards like central South Carolina, central North Carolina. Still got a little bit of, coastal snow going on at this point in time. But, this model does suggest maybe a little bit of drier air, like kind of infiltrating in between. There could be a little bit of dry slots included, which, those dry slots, which models aren't always the best at depicting on where they're going to be, could be a bit of an issue, and really could lower some totals locally. And one thing I've been kind of noticing here is that, some of these models really have this drier air for mostly central North Carolina, kind of central, north central. That's where a lot of that dry air, according to some of these models, has been, which, like I said, that would actually lower some totals and stuff like that. So, we're just going to have to see. As of right now, once again, if we were to load back up our current conditions and the current radar and stuff like that, which we'll do right now, you'll see that that's kind of what the radar right now is telling us, that we do have a bit of dry air in between. But, that's because we kind of have like two separate moisture masses here, two separate ways of moisture. We have some moisture off the coast, and then we have some moisture over here. But eventually it's just all going to become one, as we continue working down. Once again, you can kind of see that low over here starting to develop. It looks like that pressure is definitely starting to drop just off the Georgia and South Carolina coast here. And from basically this point forward, we should start to see that low strengthen, and then of course work its way over here to the northeast here. So it's definitely going to be picking up quite a bit. Haley says, "Okay, thanks, Andrew. I appreciate you." Yeah, no problem. You're very welcome. No problem at all. All right, so hopping back to SAT, here's current satellite imagery right now. So, like I mentioned, we got two big air masses that are kind of involved here. So, if you look closely, you can actually see colder air advancing from the north to the south here. And on top of that, we actually have a subtropical jet stream that's in place over the Gulf, kind of flowing over Florida right now, starting to bring some more moisture to the region for, temporary, couple hours or whatever. But it's starting to bring some moisture in, from that subtropical jet. Cold air is coming down. These are going to really kind of meet. I mean, the cold air does exist in a lot of these areas. With the moisture kind of, coming through, we're going to start to get a low that's really developing, which we've been seeing, and that'll pick up in strength as it kind of shoots its way over here to the northeast overall. So, yeah, it's definitely, definitely kind of a decent little setup that we do have here. I do want to take a moment to hop back over here to the current wind speeds here. This is, once again, from the RTMA analysis, kind of showing you where everything stands as of now. Looks like we do have some pretty strong wind gusts, likely starting to occur out there just off the coast of North and South Carolina. So as of where we stand now, you can kind of see we have maybe about 30, 40 mile an hour wind gusts here just off the coast of North and South Carolina. Now, those are obviously going to be continuing over the next several hours. I mean, they're going to be getting stronger as, this low starts to really strengthen. And like I mentioned, over the Gulf right now, we do have a fair amount of strong winds that are going on out here too. A good 30, maybe closer to 40 mile an hour wind gusts here as well, which, eventually these are actually going to go over Florida too. We're going to get some really strong winds kicking up across a lot of these areas here. That's going to be a pretty big concern for, a lot of people. Like I was mentioning, even for the Northeast, it's like, you guys may not be dealing with heavy snow, but, just because of how strong this low is and just because of how quickly this thing is maturing and how close it is to the coast, it'll actually allow for bits of the Northeast to be pretty windy. I mean, really, the East Coast in general is going to be fairly windy out there. So definitely going to be, a bit windy. So that's one thing I do want you guys to keep a close eye out there for. We'll even hop back over here to the winds here. We'll kind of show you guys what we got going on here. So this is the American GFS model, in terms of these wind gusts out there. Now, I mean, we're talking some pretty strong wind gusts overall. Some of the strongest out there for eastern North Carolina, where we could see some of the eastern banks possibly in about 60 mile an hour wind gusts or so. A lot of these coastal areas are mostly going to be within the realm of about 40 to maybe 50 mile per hour wind gusts, all the way down from Florida's coast up to all the way up in the northeast here. Definitely some windy conditions. Then, of course, we got the European model, which this model is way more aggressive in some areas, as you can kind of tell. This model specifically having a little pocket of over 100 mile an hour wind gusts. It's been oddly consistent, well off the coast of the Carolinas, which is good. It's not anywhere near land, except for the fact that, where we go towards the eastern banks of North Carolina, this model does suggest maybe even like 70 mile an hour wind gusts being possible. So definitely some strong stuff. Let's see here. Attili says, "Good morning, Canton, North Carolina here. Snowing here. We've got about an inch or so now. Gotcha. Well, enjoy your snow, my friend. Good morning to you as well." Let's see. Your weather says, "I hope I keep power. Don't want to lose power. Winds concerning me here in Grandy, North Carolina." Gotcha. Could I see hurricane force winds out here is a question. No. You're not going to see hurricane force winds. You would be in the realm of like tropical storm force winds, but having strong winds like this is a concern for power. Yes. It depends on how well developed your electrical grid is. Some of them are modernized and up to date, while you have others that are still like old and kind of clanky. I'm not too sure about your area, but gonna have some strong winds. I mean, power outages are likely gonna happen in some of these areas here, which, I mean, I hope you don't lose your power either, but it's obviously something that we do need to consider because it is a possibility. Let's see. Haley says it's gonna snow on February 4th because that's the day when I get 20%. I don't know. I haven't looked at the extended range other than this system. I didn't really see anything else going on. Oops. Other than this system anytime soon. I mean, I can pull up the models here. What am I doing? I can pull up the models here. We'll look at the euro. I don't think we have anything really going on though. I mean, other than this system here that we have going on to the east. No, it doesn't look like we have really much going on out there. See, we do have a little bit of a snow, like a mini clipper or something over here. Let me see if GFS agrees on that. That's actually kind of interesting. Here for the 4th, honestly kind of glad I looked at this because on the 4th it shows maybe a little clipper going through Mid-Atlantic and the Ohio Valley. Probably won't be much, but something to look into, possibly after this storm here. Anyways, but yeah, hopping back over here to the HRRR model. You can see this storm in, pretty good resolution here, how everything's going to play out. Everything should be out of the country, snow-wise by pretty much, here, let's see, what does that say? Yeah, it shows pretty much the morning of Sunday. Everything should be out by Sunday morning. Yeah, a lot of it's just going to be here for today, for Saturday. But anyways, so definitely going to be mostly out by then. And like I said, we're definitely thankful that, the Northeast is going to be dodging it. But, to our friends up north here in Nova Scotia, we're likely going to have some heavy snow going on out here as well. It seems like the models really did kind of pick up on Nova Scotia getting some strong winds and some, and some heavy snow out there. Which, I mean, yeah, you can see Nova Scotia getting hit by some heavy snow. And then you got the GFS on board too. What about the Canadian, the GDPS? Which the GDPS was pretty much in sync with the euro there for a while. Yeah, all three major models show Nova Scotia in for quite a ride with some snow. It looks like too. So y'all will probably be getting a bit. But anyways, y'all, if you guys have any questions, like I said, let me know. Let's see here. Devin says, let's see, I'm about 15 to 20 miles north of Asheville in Mars Hill. See, already 3 inches on the ground. The snow is falling faster and in more bunches. Am I crazier to think north of AVL will get more, we'll get a foot? Well, let me pull up Asheville here. Let me look and see where you're at. So yeah, you're up in northern side. So as of right now, the Weather Service has you in for 4 to 8 additional accumulations of 4 to 8. So you said you've already seen 3. So on top of that, we could see 4 to 8. So total, that would be what, 7 to 11 inches. So you're saying you get a foot. I mean, it's possible in some localized areas. Given how much you've already received and how much the Weather Service has you on for. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I mean, I wouldn't say it's quite likely, but we can't rule it out. And of course there could be some locally higher amounts here. So I don't think you're crazy for that. Weather says, well, I get another snowstorm in next week. I don't think so, honestly. Yeah, we were just looking out there for the 4th, and we saw a little bit up like Virginia, but I don't think you're going to get anything. Nothing big anyways. Nothing big. All right, let's hop back here. We're going to go back to the RTMA analysis here. Let's take a look at current conditions. Pull it back up our radar here. Look at the current radar. So, pulling that up, you can kind of see where everything's at right now. So, this is the current national radar. This is not a model. Like I said, this is your current radar. looking at it here, I mean, we definitely do have a pretty good amount of snow that's starting to really pop off here. And like I said, from here on out, I mean, it's going to continue to get heavier and heavier across some of these spots here, which, I mean, you can definitely see that we do have a fair amount of snow falling right now across like eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina. A little bit of showers between western South Carolina and northeastern Georgia here as well. You can kind of see I drew a little face there. I just realized. And we also do have a little bit of like, some of that eastern North Carolina activity starting to pop off here. We do have that low, this low pressure here. It's going to be the center of that storm, and we have a little bit of moisture associated with it. Some of that moisture is going over eastern North Carolina, and because it's so darn cold, not just on the ground, at the surface, but also the upper levels too. It's pretty darn cold up there, and which is allowing it to transition from rain into snow. So, definitely. Yeah, weather. I wish you the best. I don't think, or sorry, what I was gonna say is I do think there is gonna be possibility for power outages in the area, for sure. Devin says, appreciate the answer. Yeah, no problem. One more I'll add. Say, keep watching the Doppler radar of this, and it keeps getting bigger and slower. Is the storm destabilizing? So like I was mentioning here a minute ago, you probably weren't here for this, but we have a little bit of dry air, kind of in between, these two areas. We have like two moisture masses, as what I was saying, is we have the one over here by the Appalachian Mountains, a little bit of moisture that's been going on out there. And we have another little set of moisture over here. Now, as this progresses and as this low gets stronger, this is going to kind of pull everything together, in which, we're going to start to see more of this snow draw further eastward. We're going to start to get more snow developing out there kind of by the coast. And eventually, this whole area is going to be saturated in snow. I drew that a little further up north. I did not mean to do that. But, this whole area is going to be really seeing some, heavier snow. So, I wouldn't say it's destabilizing right now. I would actually say it's starting to become more of a stable storm system. It's starting to kind of, get a good grip on the moisture and the cold air, essentially. So, anyways, hopefully that helped. And Devin, if you have any more questions, do not hesitate to ask. I'll be more than happy to help you. All right, so let's hop back over here to the winds. Like I said, here's the current winds from the RTMA analysis here, which we do have likely some pretty strong wind gusts going on over here just off the coast of the Carolinas here. According to the RTMA analysis here, we do have probably a good 20, 30 mile an hour winds out there, which is unfortunately not really going to be anything compared to what we're getting ready to get here, especially for eastern North Carolina. Like I said, we got to watch out for possibly 60, 70 mile an hour wind gusts out there for, for some of these banks here. The models have been very consistent for honestly days at this point that, the eastern banks out here could be seeing some pretty heavy stuff. So, definitely is going to be quite a wind event too. So not just the snow, but also the wind included as well. And like I mentioned, for my northeast friends up here, while this storm isn't necessarily going to be bringing a lot of snow for you guys, which the northeast honestly is not really going to be seeing any snow with this. The only areas that could is probably eastern Massachusetts, like for like Nantucket and some of those regions. But one thing you guys will be getting, though, is the winds, which let me hop back here. We're going to take a look back at the wind gusts here for you guys. So this is the HRRR. We'll load up the latest long run that we have. And, you can see, definitely a lot of the Northeast could be involved in some pretty strong wind gusts here, especially on some of these upper elevations where, you're higher up here and, there's less obstructions. The winds can freely flow and, it could get pretty heavy. With the winds up there in those upper elevations there. And of course the coastal areas too, given that there's no terrain, it's just flat, allows for the wind to flow freely. There is actually a little bit of friction, a little bit of obstacles that the wind's got to get through as it goes over land. Especially mountainous terrain like we were mentioning here. You can see, for an example, the Blue Ridge Mountains. I mean, you can kind of see where they're at, right? Just by looking at this map. Those upper elevations definitely kind of grab those winds a lot easier because they're kind of sticking out towards it. So, but it's definitely interesting, as you can kind of see that honestly these mountains are really protecting. It's partially because the low is further east away from the Ohio Valley, but also the mountains are kind of blocking some of the winds actually from the Ohio Valley. If this was just flat terrain, I'm sure the winds would actually be possibly even stronger out here towards the Ohio Valley. But because they're not, because we have this, the Appalachian Mountains here, I think that's, for one, kind of blocking some of the winds, but also probably has to do with the low being farther eastward. Anyways. But yeah, so that's that. But yeah, once again, that's pretty crazy here is that, I mean, well off the coast of eastern North Carolina, there's actually a really good shot that we could be seeing, 80, 90 mile an hour winds or greater there, in which, we do have, the Euro model also kind of agreeing on that as well, which is pretty wild. Yeah, Euro is actually being really aggressive with some of these numbers in terms of wind gusts here. And like I said, it's been kind of odd how confident the European model has been with this. I mean, like some of these wind gusts well off the coast could be pretty darn high. Like I think the highest we've seen was 125 there, which is wild. But like I mentioned, the good news is that's not near the coast. The most that these coastal areas could see is maybe about 70, 80 mile an hour wind gusts here, which is still very high in winds. But for majority of the coast here, like I mentioned, we're mostly probably going to be upwards in between, maybe 40, 50 mile an hour winds up there. So pretty solid. Pretty solid here. But anyways, folks, let's see. We've been live here a little bit over an hour. For this particular stream, we've been live for 53 minutes here. But we had our crash session there a little bit ago, which it decided to crash on me. But I'm going to stream here a little bit longer. I don't think we're going to be here too much longer because I do got to get to bed. I do got to get some rest, especially if we're going to cover this here later tomorrow whenever it's really started kicking off here. But if you guys could do me a favor, consider leaving a like and maybe subscribing. It'd be much appreciated. That way you guys can stay on top of this and you can help, boost the channel. It'll help get it out there, and which could help, a lot of people, which would be much appreciated. Like I said, we'll be here to keep you guys up to date with everything. We'll be sure to be giving you all a lot more updates and stuff like that here for tomorrow as well. But I really wanted to do some night coverage here with you guys. Just hang out with you guys for a bit and just kind of keep you up to date with what's going on here, which, like I said, it's definitely starting to kick up here, looks like. Which, I mean, yeah, you can see definitely a pretty good amount of snow. I mean, it's not full-fledged yet, but it's getting there. It'll be still a little, quite a few hours away before we get in the full-fledged mode. But you can see the bits and pieces really starting to come together now. It was one thing seeing it on future radar, on the models, and now seeing it actually come piece to piece together. It's like, hey, you look familiar. That's the cool thing about the about forecasting is like, you look at a storm for days and days and days, and then it's like in real time you slowly start seeing those parts come together. It's like, you look familiar. It's pretty neat, honestly. And like I said, one of those things was, the snow out to the west here for the Appalachian Mountains that were, kicking up out there. And then, of course, that coastal snow that was supposed to start here as well, which is, was another one of those things that we were looking at there. Pretty cool. But definitely. Let's see here. Free Ticket says, thank you, Andrew. You are very welcome. You are very, very welcome. Glad to help. And once again, thank you for all of your support. I really appreciate it. But yeah, looking at the pressure here, you can see how it gets darker. This is where the pressure starts getting lower. So the blue is indicating high pressure. I mean, you can actually see right now, we have really strong high pressure in the Central Plains and the Midwest. We're talking like 1,040 millibars. Wow, we're almost at 1,050 millibars there. That's crazy. Yeah, pretty strong low. Pretty strong high. Very strong high. But yeah, you can see as we go further southeast here, out to the southeastern U.S. coast, we start to lose a lot of pressure. Pressure starts dropping. Station right now shows, so my personal mesonet, so actually I have one of these scientific stations here that me and my friend built. This one, so my current station shows 1,014 millibars, which over in Lakeland where I'm at, which, 1,014, it lines up perfectly. Yeah, so pressure is, that's not considered low pressure. 1,013 is like mean sea level pressure, average sea level pressure, but, you can see where it's starting to lower a bit. It's only going to continue to do that. The models really project this low to get pretty darn low overall. Let's see here. Brandy, thank you so much for the dollar on Cash App. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much. Let's see. Brandy left a note for me as well, so let me pull this up. It takes a second to load. But I really appreciate it, my friend. You did not have to do that. Thank you. Here, let me see if I can't maybe restart the app. For some reason, Cash App takes a minute to load here. Oh my goodness. There we go. Brandy, thank you for the dollar. I really appreciate it, my friend. Saying thanks for looking out, Andrew. You are very welcome. I really appreciate your support. You didn't have to do that, my friend. Thank you so much. Big shout out goes to you. But pressure's definitely dropping here. Let's hop back to the models here. I think we'll pull up the GFS actually. Here, let's pull up our mean sea level pressure, just so we can really see how strong this low gets. Pull up the lines, and we'll make this, see, white lines. There we go. So yeah, you can really see how low that pressure gets as the system, draws northeastward. Like GFS, the latest American model here, suggests that we could see pressure down into the 960s. There for a while, there was actually a bit of support, of that pressure getting like really, really low. Like possibly down in like the 950s. I saw some models suggesting, which I don't think we're going to get that low per se. But GFS now does show, in the later life, it does show like lower 960s, which is pretty darn low. Then of course we have the Euro, the ECMWF here, which if we were to load up that, takes a second here. Here we go. Yeah, with the Euro, also shows it getting down pretty darn low. Yeah, down in the 960s as well. Goodness. That's a pretty strong low. That's a pretty strong, that's actually equivalent to about category 2 hurricane pressure. Let's see. Hello from Walnut Island, North Carolina. What's up, my friend? Good to see ya. So you're ready for some snow, I bet. Here, let me see what we got going on out there for you. I'll be able to let you know what we got going on in terms of the latest forecast. So you're in Walnut Island, North Carolina. All right. So you, my friend, are out here. We have a winter storm warning. Oh, yeah. You're going to be in the area that's going to get hit pretty good. So the Weather Service has you between 7 and 12 inches with locally higher amounts. Also, winds gusting as high as 60 miles an hour being possible. So, yeah, that's another thing you got to look out for is, while you're getting a little bit of snow, of course, you got to keep an eye out there for those winds, too, because we could have a little bit of, gusty winds, which could cause, maybe some wind damage and, some branches and power lines to come down. So, power outages is going to be another potential issue out there, too. So, yeah, please be careful. But, yeah, it looks like we're going to be getting a bit of snow. A lot of the... a lot of the models were really showing a lot of cold air involved. So I was actually explaining this a little bit ago. So with the last storm system we had, the one that caused a lot of ice for like Tennessee, while the ground was really cold, a couple thousand feet up in the air, it was actually above freezing, which allowed some of the snow to melt before falling as ice. So that was the bad thing about that storm. The good news, though, is this storm is mostly just cold air. From the ground to the upper atmosphere, it is all cold, which is going to keep it in that pure snow form. So basically, we're just going to be having a lot of that, light, fluffy stuff, which unfortunately isn't really the best for like snowmen building or for snowballs or anything like that. But just give it a little time. As it starts to melt a little bit, you'll probably it'll probably start to pick up a bit, where you can clump it up better. Anyways, let's see here. What's up, Stefan? Good to see you. Say, what about Littletown, North Carolina? I got you, my friend. Let me pull up this area, see what we got going on for you. So you have a winter storm warning. So additional accumulation. This is on top of what you already seen. Additional accumulation between 3 and 7 inches, with locally higher amounts being possible there. Winds gusting as high as 40 miles an hour. So it still could be a little windy, of course. 40-mile-an-hour winds is still pretty decent. So keep an eye out there for that. Silverado says, what about Berks County, Pennsylvania? Got good news for you. No snow. We're not expecting any snow up in Pennsylvania with this storm here, really, or anything significant per se. Got no warnings, no watches, advisories. This is going to be well to your south. The thing is, though, while, like I was actually mentioning this here a little bit ago, while we're not getting any direct snow impacts, you can see that we do have some pretty tight isobars out here too. So that's telling us that the pressure's dropping off quite a bit over a shorter distance, which will allow for some flow to occur. So we're going to be getting a bit of winds out there. Will be a bit of an issue. Could be pretty gusty in some spots. Like if I was to bring up our winds here, go bring up our wind gusts here for you guys. Just showing bits and pieces of eastern Pennsylvania. If we were actually to hop back to the 06 UTC run, you could see, like, especially those upper elevations, we could have some pretty high gusts, a good 40, maybe some even 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts in some of those upper elevations there. But yeah, really for the peaks of the mountains is where we'd have a lot of that. Let's see. What's up? North Star saying hello from Virginia. Grew up there, by the way. But I hope you're doing well. See, it's been snowing for hours now. Let's see, 2+ inches. Haven't measured it yet. Gotcha. So, you must be on the southwestern side of Virginia. That's where we've been seeing a lot of that snow going on out there. Here, let's hop back over to our radar here. So this is current radar that we're pulling up. Yeah, it looks like a lot of southwestern Virginia is dealing with quite a bit of snow. Definitely pretty heavy in some spots. Same thing for eastern Tennessee here too. And, of course, bits of North and South Carolina. We did actually have a little bit of snow earlier up in northern Georgia, a little bit of South Carolina here. And, of course, out there by, like, coastal North Carolina here, we're definitely seeing a little bit here as well. Let's see here. Thank you for streaming. You're very welcome. Glad to be here. Silverado says thank you. You are very welcome, my friend. Let's see. But yeah, so that's what the current snow looks like right now. Or the current radar, I should say, showing you where the snow is and stuff like that. So it's definitely starting to pick up. And once again, you got that low out here, just off the coast of the Carolinas here. That's that low is definitely starting to pick up in strength, which it's gonna continue to do so over the next several hours as the system rolls through. But once again, everybody, we'll definitely be live here later on today too to be doing some coverage with you guys. All right, I do want to hop over to SAT for a minute here. So here's the current satellite imagery. So as of right now, we do have ourselves a bit of that subtropical jet that's rolling over the Gulf here, going over Florida, driving some moisture in the region here. Actually, we do have a little bit of rain off the coast of West Florida. You can kind of see here. On the panel below me, you can see we do have a little bit of rain out there. Got a bit of moisture going over us here. So a combination of that, as well as some cold air that's coming down from up north. If you look closely, you can actually see, this air moving south. So that's actually a bit of cold and or cool and dry air. Well, definitely cold. But yeah, that cold and that dry air is coming down. And of course, we do have that moisture that's kicking up to the east here, which these are eventually going to converge over the southeastern U.S., which is really going to kick up some, some heavy snow here later on today. Which, if we were to hop back, actually, we're going to hop over here to the models here. Let's go ahead and do that real quickly. Let's go over here. We'll go to precipitation type and reflectivity. Hop on back over to models. We'll actually bring up the long range, the long run HRRR here again, the 0.6 run. Which, like I mentioned, right where we're at now, we're pretty much right in here, where we do have a bit of that snow across eastern North Carolina picking up here. The snow out there in the western side of the state here as well picking up. As we progress down in time, so once we approach noon today, you can see at this point in time, a little bit of differences. First of all, the snow is pushed a little further east, more into South Carolina, and more into Georgia here. So that's going to be one of the big things according to this model. Now, also, obviously, remember, this is just one model. This is just, how this model projects the system occurring. But anyways, also we do have like eastern North Carolina here where we do have, a bit of snow continuing out there. So then we progress into pretty much about like 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And you can see that at this point, we're pretty much just one solid mass of snow. We got some snow showers really going heavy out there by Georgia. South Carolina seeing a lot of snow. North Carolina seeing a lot of snow here. Southern Virginia, up by like Virginia Beach here too, seeing a bit of snowfall. But then, you can see that we do have a few little areas here where we, could have some dry air getting involved, which, the models, they're a little iffy on, how much dry air and where the dry air will be, which can absolutely limit totals. Because if you're in a dry air slot, the snow slows down, if not stops for a period of time, which could definitely interfere with your totals. So that's one thing that I do want you guys to stay, alert for and stay tuned for is that, just knowing that it can change. A lot of things can happen that models are not very good at picking up on. While the models have been showing a bit of dry air involved with the storm, models sometimes have a really hard time figuring out where and for how long. That's one thing. That's one thing to remember, that these weather models, they're not perfect. They're good tools to use to give us a good, estimation of what we could see. But they're never perfect, Of course, there's a lot of things that these computers just can't calculate. I mean, obviously the atmosphere, there's so much stuff going on at once that even our computers, of how strong they are today, cannot calculate everything. Down to like the atom scale, whatever. It's too early for me. I can't really think too much. but yeah, it takes a lot of processing. It really does. Even then, we'd never really be able to fully observe everything going on at once at the same time for the computers to pick up on that. Anyways, that's just a kind of a late night thought. It's crazy. It is. But once again, everybody, if you guys have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask here. Like I said, we're here for you guys. We'll keep you all up to date with everything here. Let's actually look at the models for the winds. I do want to add the wind layer here so we can look at that. So let's pull up our wind speeds. Definitely at this point in time, we're going to be having some really, really, really strong winds here going off here. Let's progress our way down in time. So actually, like we were looking at the RTMA analysis here, a little bit ago, we were actually seeing that we do have a bit of strong winds here just off the coast of, North and South Carolina. But as we progress into this afternoon, that's when things will really probably start picking up, getting a little bit more stronger. We're actually seeing quite a bit of strong winds for the central eastern Gulf here, which Florida is actually going to get some pretty darn strong winds out here later today. So then we continue further down in time, and you can see once we really kind of get to the later evening today, that's when we could really have some strong winds. Got 45, 50 knot wind barbs out here, suggesting that, some of these winds could be nearly 60 mile an hour sustained, just off the coast of North Carolina there. So pretty strong. And, we definitely could have some coastal problems, rip currents being one of them, maybe some coastal swelling in some areas being possible. Luckily, the storm's not like completely battering directly on the coast here. Um, but yeah, I mean, definitely some real strong winds out there will be quite possible. Now, remember, these are sustained winds. These are not gusts, which obviously gusts are going to be a lot higher overall. Like if we go over here to the max accumulated wind gusts, we are definitely talking a pretty good amount, of winds. And like we mentioned, though, some of the areas out by like eastern North Carolina, I mean, we could even see like maybe 60, 70 mile per hour wind gusts going on over here towards like the eastern banks of North Carolina here. So, that's where the models have been very consistent, about some of these, overall some of these totals and how strong it could be. Anyways, they're doing good, Haley. Sleeping though, because it's 4 in the morning. It's pretty early. It is. I still haven't been to sleep since yesterday, so I'm a little bit drained. I ain't gonna lie. I did want to go live tonight though for a little bit. I decided it's like, yeah. I mean, I'm up. I'm usually a night owl. Lately I have been again. Like my sleep schedule, it just changes on me all the time. But I was like, yeah, I'm up. Might as well hop on and hang out with y'all and just talk about what's going on here. I mean, yeah, since also things are actually starting to materialize here, so definitely wanted to hang out with you guys. And by the way, if y'all are new here, consider subscribing, maybe leaving a like. It'll be much appreciated. It'll go a long way in helping out the channel and help spreading the channel, which would be much appreciated and could really come in handy for a lot of you guys here, which will be sure to keep you guys up to date. But yeah, so here's those RTMA analysis wins I was telling you about. So we just looked at the future wins and how things are going to progress. But yeah, right now you can see that from the RTMA analysis based off of observations, satellite imagery, stuff like that, weather stations and everything. Also with models kind of filling in the gaps. Right now we should be seeing a good, maybe 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts out there, just off the coast of the Carolinas at this moment. So the coastal winds out here are pretty strong. I don't see any MEDAR reports coming through though. Here, let's hop over to GR2 for a minute. Yeah, we've had this up for a while. We haven't really looked at this much. But yeah, you can see that coastal snow. We definitely do have some pretty heavy pockets here of snow. But don't see any reports. Although I don't think I have them enabled. I might need to. Let's see here. We'll do GR2 place files. Yeah, that should actually help out a ton. Like, I could actually get some good observations going on here. Here we go. Here, I'll even bring you guys over here so y'all can join me in this. So, let's see. We got MEDAR. Here we go, wind gusts. So we can blow up gusts. We can do looping when that's wind chill. Wind gust looping. Let's copy that. Hop back over to GR2. Place file manager. Here we go. That should give us wind gusts. Yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, you know what? That actually pans out pretty well. Yeah, look at that. We got a 30 report out there. This was peak 35. Let's see, we got another one out by Morehead City of 28 mile an hour wind gusts here. Got about 20 in out by Wilmington, Southport area. Yeah, I mean, the winds are picking up a bit. What about wind barbs? We'll also add wind barbs here too. I wish it would save. For some reason, my GR2 does not like to save anything. So there we go. Yeah, we got wind barbs here now too. So this is like actual good weather station data coming through. So I mean, yeah, it's definitely quite windy off the coast there for sure, and even on the coast, I mean, we're already seeing 30 mile an hour winds out there. So absolutely. Here, let's we'll even bring up our temperatures here too. Why not? I mean, we're already at it. We might as well. Place file manager. Here we go. I know it's really cold for you guys. A lot of you guys are in the 20s right now. Yeah, really chilly. All right, let's hop on back here, y'all. We're going to get back to the current conditions and stuff. So we're gonna pop back up our radar here. So once again, everybody, this is current radar right now. This is where everything stands, and you can see that we're definitely picking up quite a bit of snow at the moment. Here's just your radar view. So right where we stand right now, obviously we have a bit of snow falling across a couple of states here. We have eastern Tennessee, even a little bit of like eastern Kentucky there too. Bits of southern Virginia, central, kind of west central and western North Carolina. Obviously, we have eastern North Carolina here with this little bit here as well. Got a little bit of northwestern South Carolina here, and even a little bit of extreme northwestern Georgia. It looks like we have a little bit of snow out there as well. So that's where we have the snow at the moment. We even do have a little bit of snow up by like northern Indiana here too, southwest Michigan. But yeah, other than that, we're kind of chilling. I don't. That's interesting. This shows all freezing rain. Let me grab a sounding out here. Curious. I don't think it's freezing rain. I mean, it does show a little temperature inversion. It could be. Although I didn't think I saw anything major for freezing rain. Maybe it's just like an hour or so worth of freezing rain. Huh, that's weird. Yeah, I was looking at models and I didn't see anything significant for any freezing rain anywhere anytime soon. Carson says, what is the wind gust going to be in West Virginia? That is a good question, my friend. Let me pull up the models for you. We'll go ahead and bring up our wind and our wind gusts here. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be pretty gusty for some of those upper elevations here. We'll look at the 06 HRRR run. So it depends on where you're at exactly. But for a lot of central western West Virginia, not anything significant, maybe 10, 20 mile an hour wind gusts. But, for some of those high upper elevations, now these areas could see maybe 40, 50, in the high elevations there. So, yeah, those mountaintops are definitely going to be having, quite a bit. Let's see here. What's up, Live Free? Good to see ya. Saying early morning and greetings from Tampa, my friends. What's up, my friend? Good to see ya. Good to see ya. Yeah, Florida's going to be getting a bit of gusty winds, which Live Free is actually not far from me. I don't know if you knew that. I'm in Lakeland, so I'm not far from you. But yeah, us here in Florida, we're going to get some pretty gusty winds out here too. Like HRRR shows like mid 40s. It's like, wow. I think the warnings out here have us for 30 something. And then not tonight, but tomorrow night, we got some real cold temperatures coming down. I'm not looking forward to it. Matter of fact, I'll even show you guys that real quickly. Look how crazy this is. We have freeze warnings all the way down to the tip of Florida. These are all freeze warnings. Like, y'all don't realize how rare this is for like the entire state of Florida to be freezing. And not just freezing, I mean like freezing, like hard freeze, like literally like 20 something degrees, like lower 20s in some spots. Like it's crazy stuff. But anyways. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let us know. Like I said, I'm probably not going to stream much longer. I've been up for a long time. I'm getting really sleepy. I ain't gonna lie with y'all. I've been streaming a while. But we'll definitely hop back on here later today. We'll be giving you guys some more coverage. Let me pop up the models again. See kind of maybe when we can go live for you guys. Here, let's bring you guys back over here. I kind of want to see what time we could go live again for y'all. Let's bring up our timing here for the storm. Precip type and reflectivity. So everything should be out by early Sunday. You know what? Maybe I'll cover the evening. Like tomorrow evening. Maybe we'll hop on fairly let's see here. Maybe we'll hop on fairly late. Yeah, because here's midnight Sunday. And you can see that, at this point, we're still likely having some heavy snow across South Carolina, I know a lot of people are going to be streaming through the afternoon, so there'll be a lot of people for updates then. But yeah, I mean, later on as the night progresses, a lot of people don't like to stream night times, um, which still need to do some coverage at night. So yeah, I'll hop on here for you guys later tonight to. I mean, I'll be doing some throughout the day updates for you guys. I'll probably put out a couple shorts, maybe even do an afternoon stream, just kind of keep catch you guys up with everything. But I think full blown coverage, I think we're gonna do more. Uh, later on for you guys later tonight. Let's see here. North Star says very rare for you guys. So I'm surprised Florida's getting that cold. Yeah, crazy stuff, isn't it? I mean, we're gonna be getting real cold here. Let's bring up our HRRR run here. I'm actually gonna bring up the temperatures here just to show you all real quickly. Like I mentioned, I mean, it's rare for Florida to even get freezing. Central Florida to get freezing, yet alone like 20 something, like lower 20s. It's wild. It's honestly really wild. Let me load up my thingy here. So I mean, yeah, these temps ain't gonna be anything but mean from the way that it looks here. Like here is let's see, this is for Sunday mornings, 7 a.m. Look at that, Orlando, lower 20s, like 22, 23 degrees. It's wild stuff. And then I think, let's see, Monday morning, I think it's gonna be the coldest. GFS shows not as cold, but it definitely gets really far down south. What about like the Forbidden Nam? The Forbidden Nam 3K. Yeah, honestly, it looks like yeah, it actually seems like Sunday morning is gonna be the coldest. Honestly, goodness, it's about time Florida has a winter. Yeah, honestly, this is my 4th winter in Florida, and what I can tell you is that I've never seen it this cold down here. I grew up in Virginia. I lived in Virginia I was actually right at the 20-year mark is when I moved from Virginia to Kentucky for a year. Then I moved from Kentucky to Florida in late 23. But the previous years before, I was actually here for the wintertime, the entire winter, spending time. I was here for like 3-4 months from, I think it was December through like March. And that's when I went back up north to Kentucky when I lived there. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, this is the coldest winter I've seen up here or down here. It's crazy. All right, everybody. Well, I think I'm probably going to roll off for now. If y'all have any final questions, go ahead and throw them down in the chat. I'll be more than happy to help you guys. And, once again, everybody, thank you all for stopping by. I really appreciate y'all's kind love and support. You all are amazing. And like I said, if you're new here, it would go a long way if you could also maybe help consider sharing this too, just to help, maybe a friend or family member or, somebody. Would be much appreciated. But like I said, yeah, we'll so tomorrow or later today on the plan book, I'm gonna go live sometime in the afternoon. Not full blown coverage. I will do let's see, I'll also do a little bit of I'll be doing coverage in the evening. I'll be doing a bit of an update here kind of in the afternoon and maybe a couple of YouTube shorts just to kind of help push out some of these updates and stuff like that. And anyways, but I just want to say, everybody, thank you all for stopping by here, and really appreciate y'all's support. But alrighty, everybody, going once, going twice. But all right, everybody. Well, thank you all so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Oh, here we go. Hold on a minute. Live Free says, what day do I think that it would be best for me to make my trip home to Kentucky from here in Tampa? Gotcha. So you're probably taking 75 north, right? So, because I've done that trip from Louisville all the way to down here. I've done that so many times because I used to live up in Kentucky too. But if you're going 75, you go through like Chattanooga. Depends if you go up by Nashville. I think 75 goes up in what, Eastern Kentucky, I believe. Yeah, we took through Nashville up to Louisville. I'm not sure where you're going, but anyways, honestly, I don't think um I mean, whenever you want to see, most of these winter impacts are going to be farther eastward, for like North South Carolina. I'm not sure how Tennessee's handling right now. I mean, I haven't seen any latest reports for like how the ice is, because I know we haven't really seen any. Let's see here. I know we really haven't seen much like above freezing temperatures out there, which, obviously that last significant ice that we had there really made the roads pretty bad and stuff. But I'm assuming that by now some of the conditions have probably improved a bit. Some of the ice has been melted and stuff. But I mean, yeah, it hasn't really been above freezing for a while. Just depends. But I'd have to do more looking into that here, just to kind of see how the roads are and stuff. But I'm sure they're better. I'm sure they're way better than they are. I mean, so honestly, I mean, just whenever you'd want to. But yeah, I mean, we do have a little bit of winter weather going on out here right now. Wouldn't recommend it within the next few days. Just let things clear out a little bit more. Yep, that's what you're saying, Haley. Carson says, let's see, I'm getting some snow in parts of West Virginia I live in. Gotcha. Well, enjoy your snow, my friend. All right, everybody. Well, I think I'm going to roll off here for now. Once again, everybody, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And like I said, if y'all have any any more questions or anything like that, y'all can actually join my Discord server. We do have in the description, so be sure to check it out. It would, like I said, y'all are very, very welcome to join at any time. But all right, everybody. Well, I'm gonna get some sleep. I am whooped. I am so tired. So North Star says, good reporting. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you for that. But you guys have a great night. Stay safe out there. We'll catch you all tomorrow for an update live in the afternoon. Probably a couple of YouTube shorts, like I said, and then we'll hop on for late evening, overnight coverage tomorrow night for you guys. Okay? Alrighty, everybody. Thank you all for stopping by. Appreciate it. Make sure y'all leave a like and subscribe on your way out. It'd be much appreciated. And once again, everybody, thank you all for all the kind love and support. Y'all are amazing. And all right, my friends, we'll see y'all here in the next one. Peace out, my friends. See ya later on.